Hello, welcome. Meaningful Times with Friends, episode 34. We are here once again. The Nathan Nation, Merely Jason, Spoolie D, I'm Mean Dave. First off, as always, do we have any apologies? No sorries, we're good, so that means no apologies this week, everybody. Take that. So, moving it along, our first topic, we had a holiday. It's something that people look forward to more and more, and I think it has a lot to do with the times and the fact that people need escapist fare. So our first topic here is Halloween, the notorious Sam Hain,
Old Hallows Eve,
Sleepy Hollow, whatever you want to call it. It's not Day of the Dead. That is something else entirely. So, Halloween is our topic because we just had it. We are 3 days removed from Halloween of 2024. I guess thoughts on Halloween, everybody. Look at that. I disappeared. I'm a ghost. And I'm back. All right.
When you say Halloween, I immediately think of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which in some ways I like better than the main series of Halloween films because it's just a batshit insane story. It's got one of the greatest film scores of all time by John Carpenter. Excellent masks that kill children. I don't know. I think it's a fun deviation from the normal slasher kind of franchise. That's kind of where I go when I hear Halloween. I don't really dress up or do anything like that anymore because I'm no fun whatsoever. So, yeah, Halloween 3. I think Halloween 3 is where it's at. Much maligned. I think a lot of people were disappointed by it. And I think those people are wrong.
Did John Carpenter do the entire score? Did he work in the Great Donovan song, Season of the Witch?
No, there was no Season of the Witch. No, the other parts of the controversy, the original screenwriter is also very upset with the way the film turned out because the director ended up adding a bunch of shit to it, including the Halloween mask that killed kids. Originally, it was not intended to be a Halloween film at all. It was just written as a horror film in which some people, were using Stonehenge to zap people electrically. That was the original concept. I think the toy factory and the masks and all that stuff, I think really enhanced it, and I think it's a great film.
Was it implying that the mask had anything to do with Michael Myers' crimes?
No, nothing at all. It had nothing to do with Michael
Myers. I saw it. I just forgot it.
There was like a brief mention on the news of the events of Halloween 2. Like there's a TV playing and they're talking about like how somebody attacked people in this hospital.
Yeah.
But that's the only reference to the rest of the Halloween series.
So technically it exists in the same world as the Halloween movies. Okay.
Yeah. Not the same town, totally different hospital involved.
And as usual, that was a studio approach to sequels. We've covered some of that in a previous episode. That was one of those instances that they should have known better, but they didn't, and they learned. I love it in classic Meaningful Times with Friends tradition that we have a topic about something and it immediately pivots to something that's tangentially related.
It's called Halloween.
It's literally called Halloween.
It's Halloween 3.
Dave, accused and you shall receive.
But the topic is the holiday itself, not...
No, I'm talking about the
movie plugs.
The main character, Michael Myers, which is a callback to an earlier episode about Nathan's love for Mike Myers movies. Did the whole, like, Mike Myers, Wayne's World, Dr. Evil, Austin Powers thing color, like, retroactively your view of the Halloween franchise?
I'm deeply unfamiliar with the Halloween franchise. I was a Friday the 13th guy. It's really the only horror franchise I ever followed. I went in and out on a couple of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, but I've never really cheated on Friday the 13th. I was faithful to that. So I still don't like Austin Powers anymore.
Do you think this is probably preventing you from ever seeing a Halloween franchise?
I'd keep an open mind, I guess, as long as the actual Mike Myers doesn't show up in any of the movies if they come out.
That would be amazing. He pulls the mask off and he's like, "Yeah, baby, yeah, do you want to make you horny?"
No. It's a long way for a bit. This goddamn topic is fucking Halloween.
Circle back,
Not letting you flag them. Now that we got the movie review fucking portion of the goddamn holiday done. Nathan Nation, what are your thoughts on Halloween, the holiday?
Shocker. I'm going to admit that I actually like something. I like Halloween quite a bit. I like the original premise of Halloween being where it's about stuff that's macabre and not about like middle-aged housewives dressing as like sexy SpongeBob or something. Keep it to the Frankenstein-y, monstery stuff, and I love Halloween. Carrie and I are the kind of people that have Halloween stuff up year-round, sort of like with spiderweb, bat, kitchen towels, and skull stuff around the house that was originally intended to be Halloween decorations, but just ends up sitting around our house year-round. We do put up decorations every year, like not a lot, but a little bit. Like we have a ghost that has like a motion detector that sits outside and boos at you when you walk up to the front door, and a little bone dog that barks, and shit like that. We have a neighborhood where we get a ton of kids who trick or treat here. I grew up in this neighborhood as well, so it kind of gives me like touchy-feelies about just the memories of all that. It's the one true opportunity to sort of meet a lot of your neighbors and meet their parents, and people come to the door and you see all these kids in these costumes. And, quite frankly, it sounds cliche, but you really don't see kids outside anymore. So it's kind of cool to actually see children walking around the neighborhood, and it kind of makes it feel like a classic neighborhood. You're meeting people and seeing your neighbors and all that. The only thing about Halloween I don't like is I hate wearing costumes. Don't like it at all. Don't like anything where I have to dress up. It just makes me feel awkward and silly. Or anything where you're in character to go with the costume, not into it. So that's basically all of my feelings on Halloween.
If somebody showed up in Austin Powers gear or Wayne's World, or, you get the gist.
You're kind of 30 years late on that costume.
People do it, man. They still wear that shit. So,
yeah.
Jason, you didn't even tap into that when you were younger. Did you enjoy Halloween on any level?
Oh yeah, I loved going. I mean, I didn't really love like the trick-or-treating part, just going around and being out and, feeling like there were endless possibilities for getting in trouble without actually getting in trouble. It was a good time. Yeah. It was a great adrenaline rush.
Fully deep. And I'm sure you're looking forward to throwing a monkey wrench into the topic. Again, what are your thoughts on Halloween, the holiday?
It's been quite an evolution over the years. When I was a little kid, it was pretty normal. You'd get a costume, you'd go to school and all that stuff. Then I met you guys. And then it just morphed into a different way to troll people. I think one year, I'm not sure if you were with us, Dave, we drove around Christmas caroling on Halloween. Yeah, because I had this little tiny amp that could plug into a cigarette lighter, and we drove around in Ben's car and then Christmas caroled at the Halloween people. Now, I will say, like, 8th grade boys are probably the worst human beings on the planet, and I was absolutely carrying the torch for all horrible people at that age. And so the lady gave me a dime, and this is like in the 90s, right? A dime's like not a lot of money. I'm not proud of this, but I said, a dime? Well, whoop-de-fucking-do. Now grandma can get that operation.
That was a famous line, yes.
That was not good.
Yeah.
Wait, did she give you a dime while you were trick-or-treating?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
The first and last time I ever used the term whoop-de-fucking-do. I don't know where that came from. Later in life, kind of just started trying to come up with really weird Halloween costumes because I liked going to parties and I liked the social aspect. So I kind of skipped Halloween for like 7 years, and then I came back with a half crab, half Abraham Lincoln. So it was like a stovepipe cap, the beard, and then I took devil horns and made them into crab claws, and then for reasons still unknown to me, a cape. So I went through the phase. I had one like a bomber dropping bombs, and a like one of that circle slash over it. I bought a bunch of dog toys of like steak and chicken. I wrapped it over my hand and put like glow sticks in there so you can see it. And people are like, "What are you?" And I said, "Meat glove, not war." That was very, very, very bad. I did that until I had knee surgery, and then unfortunately I had about a month and a half to plan for Halloween. That's all I had to do. I was just laid up. I couldn't walk. So that's when I came up with notspooky.com and created the persona of Mr. Spooky, where I'd walk around parties and just tell people they weren't spooky if they didn't conform to the rigid criteria put up, which is like basically the third graders' idea of what Halloween is. So like ghosts, haunted house, jack-o'-lanterns, Frankensteins, Draculas, etc., like just the basic shit. And then if people were dressed up like one of those, I'd give them a card that said like, "Congratulations, very spooky. Keep up the good work." Take pictures of them, write little blurbs on the website. It's there. And then that got me kind of addicted to the live action trolling. After Mr. Spooky, I created The Surge with a business card, and it was a genuine European gigolo for ladies. And I would walk around in a tracksuit and a gold chain, sunglasses, and no shirt. That was pretty awesome.
As someone who's half Armenian, I approve of that look.
Well, I remember seeing it, and I never understood the backstory to it, so now that makes sense. So.
And then my latest one was dressing up in like a sport coat and a fake Rolex called an Olev. It's like $19 on Amazon. Just going around passing out these business cards. Lexington Screed, professional lowlife and lying scumbag, and acting as if I can help people with, basically any untoward thing. So it's evolved into more performance art, I think. And just because generally speaking, I'm a troll. And so I've incorporated that into Halloween.
Do you like Renaissance fairs?
No, I fucking hate
so
them.
while you do like to dress up and get in character, you wouldn't go as far as that level. It's
Not
still wearing a
fucking-
costume and being like, would you like some ale, my lord? Like, it's
Yeah, that's a whole other approach to costuming. The subject matter doesn't interest Spoolie, I would imagine.
Right. I want to invent a character and then force feed it on everybody versus going into an environment where everyone's dressed up like the Renaissance and pretending that was a good time in the world's history.
I think it would be funny if you went dressed as like the time haters from the Chappelle show when they went back in time.
Oh, yeah.
Go there as the haters and just start hating on all of them. She looks like she wears underwear with dick holes in them, Once you weren't playing along, they'd probably kick you out within like 10 minutes. Halloween was always a holiday that I used to look forward to as a child. I enjoyed, costumes and creativity. My favorite costume that I ever did, I didn't really do it. My mom did it. I got to be a Garbage Pail Kid card. You guys all saw the costume later. Originally, I was just going to be the character New Wave Dave. And then I don't remember who had the idea, if it was me or if it was my mother. We had the thought that rather than be the character of it, to be the actual card itself, like to make a child life-size Garbage Pail Kid card. And my mom was good at replicating art, so she, by hand, she just blew it up herself, basically making a large-scale version of it, and then with my face cut out to put my head in. We designed this whole card that I wore to our costume thing at elementary school, and it was a hit. The whole goal was to impress the chicks, and it didn't work. Another popular costume that was brought up on an earlier episode, I don't have any pictures of it in 8th grade when we were all friends. The popular movie was not the Batman, it was Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman, and I was Joker that year. My favorite part, and the part that Spoolie remembers, is to kind of keep it contemporary. Starter jackets were really popular. I got a Lakers starter jacket that was purple.
Wait, was it yours or did you borrow it from
It was
somebody?
mine. No, it was mine. Actually,
You actually had a starter jacket?
I got that one for the costume. In Halloween's after, as we got older, just started losing interest in it. I feel like every day is Halloween, of wearing a costume of your own personality, kind of.
Boppy bop bop.
Is that a song or something from one of your bands? Or what is that?
Ministry.
Every day is Halloween.
Oh, got you. I did that unknowingly. Same wavelength. As I got older, I really became a curmudgeon around Halloween. I think it's great for kids. I try not to be a hater on it because I know people have very little to look forward to in these times. My costumes are so lazy. If I have to wear a costume for some reason, I'll just put on a hockey jersey and I have my Freddy Krueger glove. Usually wear the New Jersey Devils jersey, and then I wear a backwards hat. And then if somebody, what's your costume supposed to be? I'm like, I'm Kevin Smith in A Nightmare on Elm Street dream, turning into Freddy Krueger. I'll just make a lazy costume and have a dumb explanation for it. I did dress up as Lieutenant Dan for a cosplay comedy show. Obviously, I didn't have a wheelchair, but I wore the cargo shorts, and then I wore these long black pajamas to black out my legs so that I could be accurate to the role. So yeah, not the biggest fan of the costuming part of it all. I always think Halloween's for posers of the dark. I do live like every day's Halloween, man. I listen to Danzig, and I get into things that are spooky in general. And that's where I come out. And Season of the Witch, yeah, perfectly good movie. I do understand the hate for it, though. I mean, it's not Michael Myers.
Were there any witches in the movie?
There were witch masks,
Yeah, there were cursed masks.
but no actual witches. No.
One little story of terror that occurred on Halloween night in 8th grade, where Spoolie and we split up with Sills, I think, and Jason went with Wyatt and Greg Davis, and they encountered on Mayhew's Landing a Nazi house.
Yeah, so we were just out walking around. Like, I think my costume that year was I just wore black clothes and like had eyeliner on. It wasn't like we were out trick or treating. We were just going around for Halloween, doing Halloween as just aimless teenagers walking around looking to get into trouble. And we did get into trouble. Like, I think I went and said hi to my grandparents because they lived a few houses down on Mayhew's Landing Road. And so I just stopped by to say hi to Nana and Bumpa. And so on our way back, we noticed a house with a Nazi flag hanging out in front of it, like a swastika, you know? And we're like, oh, look at that. And then we walked past it again because there were guys like hanging out in front, like drinking beer the first time we walked by. Second time we walked by, there was nobody there. But then all of a sudden we heard like two guys like running up behind us. So we turned around. The Nazi flag had been taken down. And the two guys like came back and they had socks with rocks in them. Apparently some African American kids came by and stole the flag because, you know, well, fuck that shit. You know what I mean? And so these guys came running up. They were chasing them down, trying to, you know, beat them up and get their flag back, which they failed to do. We were just kind of like, oh, okay. And we were kind of luckily, I guess, in a weird way, we were three white kids. So like the danger of the situation was kind of like removed because we were like, oh my God, thank God we weren't hanging out with like Dave or whatever. Cause like, who knows what these fucking assholes might have done.
Thank God the coloreds weren't with us.
Or some Jew.
So we were dumb. We didn't know what to do about it. And like, they're like, come inside. So they like dragged us into their house, basically. You like Screwdriver? Playing Screwdriver records. It was like,
brother.
it was real corny. I mean, they were just like barely 20 something, you know what I mean? Like they were just young idiots. So we're sitting there for, you know, like maybe 5 minutes or so. They're offering us beer and stuff. And we're just like, no, we're cool. Thanks. We just wanted to get the fuck out of there, but we couldn't figure out a way of like just leaving. And finally, somebody started pounding on the door, and they're like, if that's the fucking cops, man, you gotta back us up. And like they get their fucking weaponry ready. Like they're gonna fight the cops. And they open the door, and it's just another friend of theirs. So we just like fucking cut and run. The lamest thing about the whole experience was like we were kind of like, you know, exhilarated and, you know, like, ooh, that was scary and exciting. And we get back to Wyatt's house, and his parents fucking call the cops, and we had to like make police statements. It was so fucking embarrassing. It was.
That sounds like them because after he confessed to the LSD, yeah, they're like a family of rats over there. So.
God.
So we had to make police statements. My parents were out of town, so I had to call, and Trevor came to pick me up.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Trevor. All right.
So I basically like walked 2 blocks home with Trevor, and that was like the end of the night.
It wasn't an urban myth, but it kind of reached almost urban myth status of like getting jumped on Halloween. Like we would go out in groups.
Yeah, no, we had a straight up Nazi skinhead in my neighborhood when I was growing up. His name was Ty. This dude hung out for some reason. He skated with everybody in my neighborhood, and he would talk straight up shit like to anyone who wasn't white, but he always hung out. Like it was the strangest thing. I remember going to his house and him pulling out like these white Aryan resistance newspapers that he fucking read, and he tried to show them to Chris Norberg and shit and be like, you should check this out, dude, this is really important. And if I look at it, he'd go, that's not for you. And it was just like, it was fucking so weird. And he, similar to what you're talking about, he and some buddies lived down the street here, and they had a Nazi flag in their fucking window too. So I mean, Newark stories, man.
You had to be careful because there were gangs out there in our neighborhood. You could get jumped, you know, and in other areas too. There's, as we said, kids are evil. One of the dangers, if you went out alone, you could get harassed. They would always try to beat you up and take your candy.
Jason and I had a plan. If we got jumped, we were going to attack each other.
That's a good plan. All right.
It's a fucking great plan.
Yeah, confusion.
That's a good diversion. I like it.
We beat that topic to death. Next topic. In our chat, as always, we have some discussions. And one of the things that comes up a little bit here, because we have a longtime purveyor of chickens, pets, companions, and then we had another one of the friends join the chicken revolution as pets. And I was like, well, let's talk about chickens as pets and pets in general, maybe. The Meaningful Times with Friends leading expert on chickens as pets, Nathan Nation, kick this off.
Okay, so probably 2018, 2019, we got chickens. My wife and I are bird nerds. Totally middle-aged person thing to get into is we actually go and see birds in certain places sometimes if we know that there's a bird. Like we heard that there were nesting bald eagles at some place in Milpitas, and we went and checked them out. At one point, there was a leucistic hummingbird in Santa Cruz at the gardens there that we went and checked out. So we do these bird nerd little adventures from time to time, but birds, they're distant. You can't touch them. It's hard to interact with them. And my wife always really loved birds. So there was just one random day where she was like, would you mind if we got some chickens? And she usually is used to me resisting all these ideas she comes up with, because I'm like, typically I'm like, I don't know. But I was like, yeah, let's fully get some chickens. Let's see what that's about. So we've had 6 chickens for 7-8 years now, and it's been a pretty cool project, I have to say. Not only are they pets, but they provide us with food, which is unusual for most other pets. You're not getting much of that from a dog or cat. So it's cool in that it gives you an understanding of where some of our food comes from. I had no idea about a lot of the things that had to do with farm animals before I got chickens. So from that perspective, it's pretty cool. I also have a cat that's like a neighborhood cat that I feed. His name's Wayne. So I get actual kitty love. My wife is allergic to cats, and I love cats. So the fact that we have these dumb birds that are just kind of in the backyard and do their own thing is cool. But the cat I really do love.
Can you turn them into cannibals?
I've never heard that. You can feed them back their eggshells because it's a good source of calcium. It will make their shells nice and hard, which you want. From time to time, an egg will break inside the coop, and they'll all eat it if the egg breaks. Like if it had a thin shell or for some reason the chicken sat on it too hard. I don't know why, but they'll all eat it. And I've never noticed, because of any of that, they've had any propensity to be like cannibalistic or anything. So I don't know, to be honest, but I mean, we have 6 chickens. Maybe if you have a huge flock or something.
Test it, bringing them some KFC or some Popeyes after they do that and see what's up. Merely Jason, your thought on pets or even chickens as pets, whatever.
My parents had chickens for a while, and they were really cool because they were like evil black chickens. I mean, they weren't evil because they were just like black and shiny. And whenever I saw them, it was like over Christmas, so like it would be snowing. So it was just like this flock of black chickens like running around in the snow. It was like very cool, very black metal. Interesting thing, Masami Akita, the guy who is Merzbow, he has chickens. He has like fancy chickens, like super fancy, like fluffy, weird looking chickens with strange feather configurations and everything. And I always thought that was kind of cool. He's had them for years. He's a very big animal rights guy. I have a Chihuahua, which is not a chicken. He's kind of cool. I think having pets is all right, you know? I didn't want a pet for a long time because I grew up with a lot of dogs that my parents had. And they were very annoying. So I always said I would never wanted a pet. But then it got to the point where I started walking for my health, you know, for exercise. And I realized this would be a lot more fun if I had a dog to like give me an excuse to walk. So I adopted my dog and, you know, been walking around together for 9 years now. Pretty good time.
Thank you for specifying that a Chihuahua is not a chicken, too.
They start with the same 2 letters, or 3 letters, excuse me.
Yeah,
3 letters.
and we live in times where people kind of need clarity like that.
Yeah.
Literal times. Spoolie D, recent chicken enthusiast. Thoughts?
Yeah, Jason's parents and those dogs, that was something very, very interesting, like sociologically, psychologically. Do you feel like any trauma you may have suffered from that is long gone, Jason?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Were they German short-haired pointers?
Yes.
Or German short-haired pointers, yes.
Yeah, those are big dogs, so yeah.
Big dogs with a lot of energy that are bred for running around giant fields and finding birds in the bush.
And Jason didn't have a big house.
No.
No.
There were a lot of them. And occasionally they would be bred. So there would be little baby ones running around all over the place. And they were just way too much energy. They're very hyperactive dogs.
Do you know where they came up with the name Jexter?
Yeah. Mike Sills, actually. What happened was there was a litter of dogs that a friend of my parents had bred. He was a litter of puppies that were a runt litter. So they were, and he was the smallest and sickest one. So my mom couldn't bear the thought of it being drowned in a bucket. He was very sick. He almost did die, but after a lot of nursed him back to health and raised him. But basically, he was nicknamed Reject. Came over and he said, "Oh, Jexter."
When Mike was clever, those were good times, man.
To my mom's credit, eventually he became like a champion dog in the field trials organization they were in.
Very moving story. Spoolie, now how about you talk about the fucking chickens, man?
Anyone here been to Kauai?
Yeah.
Okay. There's three things about Kauai. Actually, two things. One, they have the worst drivers on the planet. It is striking, like how terrible the driving is there. The other is they just have chickens running everywhere, just like wild. When I was there, I think it was like '06 or whatever. I was just like, this is amazing. You guys have been around Nathan's chickens. Chickens have great energy. Like they're very like pleasant creatures. There's no weird anger. There's no ulterior motives. They just like to peck, scratch, give themselves dirt baths, peck and scratch some more, and just kind of like run around in short spurts. They have an attention span of about 3 seconds. And so you can actually just watch them and they'll do something different if you just wait like a few seconds. They'll move into some other thing. It's all kind of a variation of the same shit. Like it's mesmerizing and entertaining. They're just lovely creatures. And so I've always loved chickens. And as Dave likes to point out, I like to eat chicken. So when we got more space, eggs are expensive and especially high quality eggs. And the best eggs you can get is like fresh chicken eggs. You're also not supposed to wash them. They don't wash them in the UK and they don't refrigerate them. I don't know why we like wash them and then refrigerate them in this country, but we do.
I think it's due to worries about salmonella because most of our food comes from these mega farms that aren't exactly clean. So they wash the eggs because they're worried about lawsuits involving salmonella.
I believe they do it for some law and order.
One of my future Halloween costumes is a Filipino lounge singer named Salmonella.
All right.
No, I'm dead serious, actually.
I know you are, but still.
What's behind you not wanting to know your chicken names? How come you're so resistant to that?
Because they're livestock. I like them, but like, I don't know.
That sounds like a typical Spoolie D kind of thing. Doesn't want to personalize something in case you might have to eat it.
I'm not going to eat them.
That's the thing. Well, you consider them livestock. That's interesting. Yeah. So then as livestock, that's the line of like, pets, because that's kind of, now my turn. Yeah, no, I mean.
They're just like...
Tagging in.
Yeah, no, you just fucking slip off the bench, rip the fucking warm-ups off, and just walked into the game and just like tapped me in the shoulder like you're out.
Exactly. My fucking turn. But the point being that you refer to them as livestock, not pets. And as such, you refuse to do the very thing that is kind of what pets, I think, serve. What do we call it?
Companionship.
No, anthropomorphizing.
Anthropomorphism, but you can have a pet and not think that they have human characteristics. But you're right, Dave. Most of the time we do anthropomorphize our pets.
I think the key word is you're right, Dave. Those are the key words. Kind of similar to the phenomenon of Halloween obsession. When I was growing up, we had pets. I had pets. I have a joke all about the de-evolution of perspective on pets. When I was a kid, pets, if you had one, it was a big responsibility. You got to clean up after it. You got to feed it. You got to do all that kind of stuff. At the same time, there was a level of like disposability factor. Like, oh, if we don't get along with this one, we'll just have to take it to the pound. They're not human. It was always reminded that these are not human, that human life is more valuable. And then over time, you talk about your pets today, and I mean, we've got pet insurance, we've got all kinds of things that used to only apply to humans, and it applies to pets. It's been discussed about the attitude towards pets, dog owners, specifically in San Francisco from Spoolie D. Go back to earlier episodes of us for that conversation. But the obsession over pet ownership, growing up, we would look at chickens as they weren't necessarily pets. They were part of farms where livestock would be. You have goats, sheep, might have cows and all that. So it wasn't necessarily thought of as pets. However, people that kept them in neighborhoods may not have been as pets, but definitely had chickens notoriously. Our people, Nate, Mexicans. That's how you knew you were in a Mexican neighborhood, when the alarm clock was a rooster. I've never thought of chickens necessarily as pets, but the typical pets would be cats, dogs, that kind of thing. And I've always enjoyed the time that I had with a pet, but I had to be there for many of the pets' demise. And just the experience of having to be there to euthanize it was just not fun. And getting to do it over and over again was very not fun.
Over and over again?
Yeah, we had a lot of pets, and I would be there.
Oh, I thought it was like the same pet. It was like, what is your veterinarian, Sylvia Plath?
No, sorry.
Tried to kill herself many times, Jason, and failed.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you for art-splaining.
Well, I know, it was like aimed at Jason, and he just gave me this quizzical look like, I don't get it.
He's having
I'm just disappointed in your shitty joke.
Jason's not suffering fools this morning.
No, or spools.
Point being, though, that just the nature of like pet obsession today, it may just seem like, oh, you're being a good pet owner It's kind of weird. I mean, I went with Jason recently when he went to drop off Jack for surgery, and he had to hang out in my neighborhood. So I had to interact with some of these pet people for a minute, and it was very uncomfortable. I didn't go inside the office, I was outside, but even in that time, there was one lady talking about Jack to us and just comes by, oh, is he just the... And Jason knows how to speak their stupid language of people. I didn't think anything less of her as much. It's just that's the interaction. You know, when Nate talks about last episode having to be there with the bro dudes talking about, you know, shitty ain't interested. Well, I'm not interested in talking that much about animals per se as if they're people. Not to say that they don't have personality. They totally have personalities. When I hung out with Nate at his house and got to visit with the chickens, I never knew chickens love blueberries. I didn't think fruit was their thing. And turns out, yeah, they fucking love them shits, man. You throw the blueberries, they're all over there pecking that shit up, fighting over it. And you can see the personalities in them. You spend a little time with them, yeah, because they're fucking living beings. So, yeah, they're going to have some characteristics. But at the same time, we don't speak their language. We don't know how to communicate with them. We can feel like we do, but do we really know? No. But some of them, you know, there are ways that they communicate, namely to get food. Interestingly enough, just recently, I posted a picture of it on my Instagram. We have a lot of stray cats in our neighborhood, right? You know that they're strays because as soon as you roll up on it, they're not coming to you to hang out. They run, they scatter. And, you know, they have their little fuck parties. And, yeah, cats get in heat, Nate, and they fuck, thus making more cats. And
they're all a combination meme of like the fuck shed as a litter box.
I'll make it. All right, fuck shed litter box coming up. I was going to go pick up my pizza recently, and on my way there, I see this cat that's just chilling on the curb, and it's looking at me as I pass by it, close enough to it that it didn't run off. And I just thought that was kind of strange because all of the strays in this neighborhood will run fast if you go anywhere that close to it. So on my way back, cat's still there, still chilling, and is looking at me, and I stop, and then I gave it the little, like, to see if it would come over, and it just rolled right up to me like it knew me and just was instantly friendly. Which then made me wonder, like, is this cat belong to the neighborhood, or it might have been an abandoned cat that was domesticated and somebody just dropped it off in the neighborhood. It followed me 3 blocks to where I live. So it wasn't just that I pet it. When I started walking away from it, it followed me, and I was like, oh, that's cute. It's going to follow me. And then it followed me across the street, followed me down a block, and I realized this thing's fucking hungry because an animal like this that's has a domesticated kind of quality was not following me for fun because it's an animal. It followed me to where my house is, and I'm pretty sure it knows that, like, we have some level of strays around here too, because it wouldn't cross the street to our side where the house is. So I came in, I have a bunch of tuna that Nina gave me from, I don't know, she came into a lot of tuna. I grabbed a can of tuna and put it in a thing across the street, and this fucker just scarfed it right the fuck up. I think I might have seen it one time since, so I'm just keeping an eye out for it. I hope it lives around here. I hope somebody takes care of it because it was a cool cat. When I posted the picture, the responses of the people were just, oh, looks like somebody's got a new pet, and all, you know, oh, and everybody's giving me backstory on this fucking cat. It's just a picture of a cat that I took because I'm like, yeah, this fucker followed me home. Weird. And now everybody's got this invented narrative that now we're going to be buddies, this PG-13 ending, you know, like we're Milo and Otis all of a sudden. And that's the difference. Like back then, people would be like, hey, man, just, you know, leave it alone or whatever. And now we're not very compassionate to our fellow human, but God forbid you leave a cat. Think of the cat. It's just weird.
Oh, yeah. My wife wants to adopt another dog. And so she's been looking at all these different agencies. She has this thing for Shih Tzus. I don't know what that is, but one agency, you have to have 5 non-familial references in order to adopt a dog from them. That's more than you have to have, like, for a job interview. You know what I mean? It's wild that animals have been humanized that much to the point where it's not just like, look, it's this dog someone abandoned, no one wanted it, but you have to have 5 different people say that you're a good person.
I have the right owner for this pet no one wants. Yeah.
I'll be happy to write a very over-the-top recommendation for you and your wife.
Okay.
Almost painting you as saints. You ever seen, I want to say Bedazzled, the one where it's like Brendan Fraser and
Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
I was Bedazzled.
Yeah.
So there's that one where he wants to be more sensitive, that one portion, and she grants him, and he's just like barely able to say anything without weeping. I'm going to paint you as that. Dave, we had a couple assignments in Mrs. Henderson's class in 10th grade. I should say Miss Henderson because she was very much a spinster. She assigned 2 assignments. One was write about your best friend, and you wrote an essay about your cat. You remember that?
Yeah, I probably did. Yeah.
See, Dave not only loves cats, Dave is kind of a cat. He's very much a cat, and so am I. The other one was something about your most treasured moment, and I wrote a really long essay about the time Jason and I found a golden retriever behind Kmart wrapped in a garbage bag. And I wrote this really long essay.
Was it true or did you make it up?
No, it was a dead dog. Somebody dumped a dead dog in a garbage bag by Kmart. Yeah.
That sounds like Newark. Yeah. All right.
Sure does.
Newark.
Yeah, that's so Newark. That should be like a sitcom, like That's So Raven. The dead dog.
That would be amazing if we found Raven Simone wrapped in a trash bag.
Wrapped in a trash bag. That's so Raven. All right.
That's so Raven.
My window's going to really be fucking with people. I know that.
No, it looks great.
Yeah, thank you. Dude. So any more closing thoughts on pets, chickens as pets? Sounds like chickens are cool, but it takes a lot of maintenance.
If you start looking at the cost of like what you need to do to keep them like healthy and producing good eggs, you're definitely not making a profit on not having to buy eggs. And I eat a shit ton of eggs.
Yeah.
Well, and there's seasonal things to take into consideration too. Like right now, all my chickens are molting. So annually, when the fall comes, chickens lose all their feathers and they grow them back. During the time that they regrow all those feathers, there's no eggs. So Carrie and I probably won't have any eggs till December. There's all kinds of weird little things you learn when you keep farm animals that you never knew.
You know who's not a pet? Fucking geese. Fuck geese. All right.
They're dicks.
So now move on to our song, and the song of the week. Boy, this is Nate's selection this week, and it is Rod Stewart's Infatuation. A theme song to white supremacy, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, man, I love this song. I love the movie The Sure Thing, which came out in 1985, starring John Cusack. It's like one of my absolute favorite movies from the 1980s. And the opening of the movie starts with this blonde woman in a bikini walking down a beach. And she's the woman who later in the film, John Cusack will eventually hook up with. Or he doesn't actually hook up with her, but she's the sure thing that he's going to meet later in the film. Anyway, the music that's playing throughout the intro is this song, Infatuation by Rod Stewart. I had been looking for this movie for a long time because it's not streaming anywhere. For some reason, someone posted the entire movie on YouTube. It's still there. Kind of weird edits in it, but the whole movie is up. So I heard the song Infatuation, and I was like, oh, wow, there's a song I have not thought of in a long, long time. It made me want to go check out the video, which I had never seen. I mean, this song came out in 1984 when I was 9 years old. We probably didn't get cable for another 3 years after that. So I didn't watch MTV at this point when this song would have come out. And I was kind of blown away by the video. The video is silly, but really good and meshes well with the music. There's just elements to it that are just hilarious. Like there's a point where Rod Stewart is just standing by a pool spying on this woman, but he's carrying these gigantic binoculars. It's just wacky. And like we talk a lot on the show about nostalgia and people sort of obsessing over the 80s. I mean, this is 40 years ago. Like these sex symbols from 40 years ago look like these beat up old catcher's mitts. Like no one would want to fuck Rod Stewart now. He was past his prime at this point, but still he's probably 38 there and he looks like he's about 50. And the same with like dudes like Mick Jagger, right? Like sex symbols of years past just don't make any sense by today's category. Like they don't have tattoos. They're older than 30. They don't have a six pack, no facial tattoos. I mean, it's just the whole package of this song. I'm just fascinated by it. And I just thought the video was great. And I was like, oh my God, this would be a fun one to share with you guys. So the song came out in 84. The movie was 85.
Yeah. So it was mid 80s. Well, it's unclear the context of what's going on here. Because is Rod Stewart stalking her, or is he hired as a private investigator? The way that the video works with the old guy, the woman he's, infatuated with, is with a guy, a guy even older than Rod Stewart, and he knocks on his door and like shows a picture of her to him, and he like shakes his head, and yet he's then constantly photographing her throughout this, in the building that they're in. And the end of the video, it seems like the old guy and the girl are in on like kind of fucking with Stewart at the merry-go-round. Like they ride off like, haha, we got you. You took all these pictures of like what, you got free photos from it or some shit? I don't understand what exactly the whole context of it is, but the video itself with all of his photographing of her and, you know, having all the images and all that, I was pointing out that just this was one of many videos that was kind of normalizing stalking culture in that time, in movies and in these videos and all that. There were a lot of stories. I think The Sure Thing probably is one of those kind of movies where it was deemed cute if a guy was infatuated with a girl and he wouldn't give up. You know, it was that whole, like, you know, you're going to win her over kind of shit. And in the end, somehow, some way, through some cutesy way or whatever, they would either win her over or they somehow figure out some platonic solution. But just in the course of the 80s, that essentially what stalking culture was kind of normalized. And shit like this was kind of emblematic of it. That was just what I thought when I was watching it. So,
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Did you know Nietzsche died of syphilis?
No. Why is that important? Why is that funny?
Apparently, you don't speak each other's unspoken language fluently.
Look at these people. They think they're having a good time.
Spontaneity has its time and place.
Right. These are all lines from The Sure Thing.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I never watched it. I never saw it.
It's great.
It's great.
You should watch it.
I watched it with Nathan at least 3 times.
It's a Cusack movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rob Reiner directed it, so I'm surprised it's not streaming somewhere. All right, he's assuming the role of Art Lord in this case, so go ahead.
I'm allergic to Rod Stewart. Like, I don't find anything appealing about him or his music.
You're like literal Hitler.
I never understood like why he was considered hot and sexy. The "Do you think I'm sexy" video, like, oh my god, that alone is like, it's embarrassing. But this one, like, I think the highlight of this one is when he's watching her do jazzercise or whatever, and he's just kind of like swaying back and forth, like working his you know, like kind of absent-mindedly as he's watching her do it. The weirdest parts of the video are when it's just like a close-up of his face and he's like dancing around, but his like face is just dead center. So you can see that his body's doing some kind of movement, but it's just his face. So it's like deep, like hard close-up of his face. And I don't know if that's because they cropped it weirdly because it's widescreen now, whereas it wasn't shot to be widescreen video originally. But it's just like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like you can see that he's doing something, but you can't really tell what's happening. So it's like, I don't know, it's very uncomfortable and strange. And then I think the best thing about watching this video was actually reading the comments on the YouTube video, because it's like nonstop. Everybody's obsessed with Jeff Beck in the comments because, you know, he played guitar on the song. And so it never really occurred to me to think about the guitar, because it just sounds like somebody's like playing guitar in a room while this song is playing, you know, because they're two things that don't really mesh at all. Like they're just like this weird kind of synth beat, you know, and synth pop kind of sound, and then Rod Stewart, and then just somebody like grinding away on a guitar next door. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, it sounds really bizarre. It's a weird song, and I'm not a fan, and I really wish I didn't have to pay much attention to it because I forgot about it, and then he reminded me, and I'll never forgive him.
And he likes it too. That's the thing.
This is the episode where I like stuff.
Yeah. It's true. All right, Spoolie.
Jeff Beck was just awkwardly like plopped into the video, and all of a sudden he's doing that stupid 80s move where he's playing the guitar behind the back of his head. I don't know why. He might be one of the more overrated like guitar players of that era. It was just like they would just say his name because people didn't really know guitar players, so people knew like 3 or 4 of them, and Jeff Beck was one of the ones that people knew. So I think he just got a reputation. The other thing,
reputation, chun.
Fun fact that I found out recently that Kevin Spacey's brother is a professional Rod Stewart impersonator.
Oh God!
Yeah, it's crazy. You can look it up.
Find that out.
Who does that appeal to? Like 75-year-old women?
I don't know, but I looked up. It's legit. Someone was going on a rant about Kevin Spacey's acting and like how he was weird. Then it mentioned his brother. I'm like, that can't be true. And I looked it up, and he is. I was watching an interview with Rod Stewart back in the MTV era, and he was getting irritated about people grabbing his junk at concerts. And I remember he said, "Look, you can grab the bum, that's all right, but stay away from the old block and tackle," which is what I always think of with Rod Stewart. And I agree with Jason. He's a ghastly looking man. I don't understand how he became a sex symbol. He was like dating Rachel Hunter, I think, at some point. She was like a good 6 inches taller than him. The video itself is like this weird film noir for dummies. And like the way I interpreted it was that he was just perving on this chick that lived in the same complex. She was in trouble with this guy, and I don't know if there was two different guys or just that one old guy who kind of looked like the guy from Grumpy Old Men. But he was stalking her because he wanted to fuck her, and that guy was dealing with her in some sort of criminal element, whether he was holding blackmail or something, or he was trying to keep her quiet. And Rod Stewart's perving was getting in the way of whatever criminal shit he was doing. And at the end, he thought he had finally like come to a place where he could get to her, and the guy was still there. Basically, that guy was just cock blocking Rod Stewart the whole way. In fact, cold cocked him at one point. It's basically just like, stay the fuck out of this. But at that time, you know, he was just so horny and infatuated, if you will. If it was just normal, like crushing, he could have gotten over it since his life was in danger. But since he had an infatuation, he couldn't help himself despite the danger. Sorry, I didn't mean to play Art Lord in this one, but you're supposed to fix on how ugly he was to analyze the video. But Dave, definitely watch The Sure Thing. It's the height of like Cusack verbal gymnastics, and there's just so many fucking unique and memorable lines.
And now another one of Spoolie D's forced fucking tangents.
You know, I'm coming off of watching 2 episodes of Touched by an Angel.
Is that the one with the pedophile?
Della Reese? I don't think she's a pedophile.
Kevin or something, blonde dude who was in. I always remember him from Brewster's Millions.
This one is Della Reese. They basically are angels and they intervene in people's lives.
And it's being touched. You know what's funny? A word that was brought up 3 times last episode, but was not mentioned once here, and it clearly is a key to Rod Stewart's being a phenomenon, is propaganda. It's like he kind of created his own propaganda of him being a sex symbol because, yeah, anybody with any sense would be like, what? His songs epitomized 80s excess. It was clearly cocaine culture. You feel like you're doing a line when you hear any of his fucking songs. And the video, again, epitomizes a lot of that kind of behavior that seemed to happen at the time, with infatuation, but yet it's bordering on criminal harassment behavior, seeing all the pictures and all that shit. You're not supposed to do that. The whole video is so vague as to what's going on that it's funny that we would watch it then and see him as like a protagonist you're supposed to empathize with. Like, yeah, haven't you ever been in love with a girl so much that you take a shit ton of fucking photos from her without her knowing about it, put them on your wall so in case if anybody came in, they'd be like, what the fuck is this all about? But, but it's because you got an infatuation. And meanwhile, her sugar daddy or whatever the fuck, is like, hey, dude, like you need to back the fuck off, man, because we're just seeing you with binoculars and too often in the courtyard by the pool. And we know that you're looking at her. It's almost like his stalker behavior is like what's almost saving her, but she doesn't look like she's that unhappy. Like in the shots when they're around the merry-go-round, she's on the other side. She's looking at him kind of like, what the fuck is your problem? It's like, yeah, this isn't infatuation, that's obsession. But the payoff being like they didn't wind up together. She wound up with the weird old guy, and they're rolling off, and she's like waving bye with a smile, like, we got you. That's why I couldn't figure out if there was like some private eye aspect to this, but it's so vague. And yet the video, you're just supposed to think that like, oh yeah, that's Rod Stewart, I guess this is the one that got away.
I think in the context of the time this was made, you would probably be considered lucky if you were being stalked by Rod Stewart.
Yeah,
it's not weird if someone as sexy as Rod Stewart is obsessing over you and watching you and taking pictures of you, because you wouldn't want to fuck him, right?
Flattered, yeah, that someone with that hair. That's what he is. He's 90% hair. Look at that hair, man. You saw that shit at Supercuts. He kind of, planted the seed that then led to the hair artists of like your Richard Marx, Michael Bolton. He has one song I do like. What's his name? Loves it. Stacy Peralta. Uses it constantly. Wake up, Maggie, I'm something wearing like that song. It's one of his older ones before, really the coked out 80s. But I remember hearing those songs back in the day. And I didn't mind him then. But yeah, I forgot about him. And then when Nate brought it back, it's like, oh God, there's like, remembering a bad night on drugs back in the day. You remembered a little better and then realizing, oh no, what did I do? Like, I really need to go back and make amends. So that's it. Meaningful Times with Friends, episode 34. I want to thank everybody. The Nathan Nation, Merely Jason, Spoolie Dizzle, In the Hizzle, and I'm Mean Dave. Thank you for watching these. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take it easy. Bye.